My name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine. Today I wanted to talk about 10,000 hours. You might have heard the term 10,000 hours through Macklemore. It's one of the things he states in his songs. And he has a brilliant song called Thrift Store Shopping, which I'm really grateful for because one of the greenest things you can do is reduce, reuse, recycle. So as we recycle items, we reuse items that have already been used. We reduce the amount of newness we consume. We get off of this need to new, fresh, new, fresh. I gotta have the newest, freshest thing. Oh, I need a new phone. I need a new. It's like, well, your current phone works and that's $1,000. Maybe save some money. I don't know. But our tendency to want to consume new is a way that we consume resources. So when we use thrift stores, you will find that you have opened up a wide variety of things that can be pretty cool, pretty old school. And also, like if you're vegan or vegetarian, you can purchase leather shoes and leather jackets because you're not contributing to the death of a new animal if that's the reason you've chosen those pathways. So there's lots of opportunity as we move towards thrift stores. The reason I'm pointing to that 10,000 hours in Macklemore's song is because that may be where you've heard this term before, perhaps from a friend, family member, or someone else, coworker. The origination of the term started in 2008 when Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book Outliers and stated that any being that gives undivided attention to a life skill to the point of 10,000 hours has the propensity and capacity to have garnered mastery of the topic. If you therefore focus on playing the guitar for 10,000 hours, then you come into mastery of understanding because of the amount of attention you've placed on that skill. So there's two ways I want to look at 10,000 hours today. I usually have 2 to 3 ways I want to look at any given thing because I've got 15 minutes to get it all out there. Otherwise, we'd be discussing lots of ways. But the 2 ways I wanted to focus on today is your 10,000 hours. Now, there may be several topics in which you have 10,000 hours. I can say death is a topic. Death is something I've experienced. I'm 45, 50 plus people have died. Animals, there's lots of things I bury. I bury for other 2-leggeds. I bury for myself because my cat murdered it. I'm not going to get into predation, but so there's definitely in my life, I would definitely say death has taken up 10,000 hours of my attention. So when we go to make a list of everything we have 10,000 hours of attention in, it may not initially sound like a skill. Like, is death a skill? That's just an inevitable, However, I actually do have some life skills when it comes to death, when it comes to grief, and some people may have read Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, which is kind of the grandmother of knowledge around grieving and death. Or you may have studied the topic, or you've studied near-death experiences, or you've studied death, which I've definitely done a lot of studies of near-death experiences, reincarnation, and different aspects of what 2-leggeds say transpires from death. And I've also had a lot of death as an experience, and I've seen a lot of dead bodies and dead creatures, and I have discussed death a lot. And there are many things I've learned through the amount of attention I've had on that topic. Like, a lot of 2-leggeds will say when someone dies, like if my dad just died or mom just died, they've been dead a while, but if they just died, people would say, I don't know what to say to her. People often say in response to death, I don't know what to say. One of my largest learnings around death is you don't need to say anything. You need to ask. You need to ask because what that person needs is to grieve. They need to integrate, have that shadow integration of that their flesh costume is gone. They need to come to terms with the massive change, which is the way we define the death card in the tarot and dream interpretation. They need to come to accept that change. And one of the ways we come to accept it is by placing our attention on the topic. So when I have someone in the river of my life that has a death, I'm not trying to say anything to them. I'm trying to ask them, what do you remember about that person? What kind of things did you do? What were they like? I'm trying to ask them a lot of questions so they're given the opportunity to speak on that person and potentially feel. And if they cry, I don't interrupt that crying because that crying is a medicine of the grief, being relieved as a release from the body. And we cry, we have different chemicals we release when we cry tears of sadness as opposed to tears of joy. So I want to aid them to get those tears out for them to assimilate, process, make peace with. And I might speak and share, but fundamentally, when when a two-legged I know is experiencing a death and processing a death, I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to keep asking them questions, because one of the challenges is feeling like that person is erased from this realm. So I'm going to keep them active in the realm, and then support the people I love with integration of their experiences, because we can integrate, we can come to understand, we can come to know. And I might share about NDEs and reincarnation, things that have given me solace and peace as I've come to consider what happens to the dead, which has been a massive question. So death might be a 10,000 hour situation for me because I've had so much of it. It's a constant. I always say Hades is my husband. I'm like literally married to death. Another topic for me would be metaphysics. Meta meaning beyond, physics meaning the physical realm. I love physics, and I love quantum physics, and I also understand that there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than you and I have dared to put under a microscope. So love doesn't fit under your microscope. It's not going to fit in your lab. And you can say like, well, prove God. Well, prove love. You know what I mean? Like there's lots of things you can't prove. That's not a very valid argument that something doesn't exist just because you can't prove it, because a lot of things are metaphysical in nature. They are beyond the physical realm. The content of compassion or forgiveness is not something we're going to come to necessarily understand. We haven't at this juncture through our microscopes and our scientific theories and our Socratic methods. So all that to say that metaphysics is something I've been studying my whole life, and I would say I have well over 10,000 hours in that topic, because I've devoted my life to spiritual study because of my understanding of the validity of the metaphysical aspects of existence and my interest in that which cannot be proved with our theories of science. So that's something just based on my interest. I'm not right about my interests, teach their own, but that's something that I do have 10,000 hours. So my invocation and invitation today is for you to consider, where do you have 10,000 hours of attention? Now what we can take from that, let's say I listed death. Death is something I have 10,000 hours of attention in. That's not necessarily, okay, now my career is death. I'm not going to I murder people. That's not going to become my career. But what I can understand from my level of awareness around death is there are many things that involve death. Grief counselor, death doula. There are lots of jobs available that are available to me, ways I can serve in the world with my level of understanding and with my focus. Today, I'm a spiritual teacher due to my metaphysical studies and due to my own drive to share my 10,000 hours with the world. So I am most versed in metaphysics and spiritual teachings. So that's the thing that I offer the world, and it fills my cup and my heart in a way that is difficult to describe with the nominal offerings that language is. Like I'm deeply fulfilled by sharing that which I've garnered the most with others, and also awaken. I consider everyone my teacher by discussing these things with other two-legged. So what is it you have 10,000 hours in? Maybe today just make a list of that. I'm well skilled, well developed in this. You might flush up that you would be an adept accountant and you've been pursuing a counseling career, but you actually love math and you love numbers. Or you might find that you love to build things and you make a great contractor, or, but instead you aren't working with your hands at all, So you've been working more with your mind or something, or like editing, you're sitting behind a computer, but you'd rather be out there touching and building and engaging with life. So today the invocation invitation is to consider the 10,000 hours that you have that could serve your joy in a greater way if you find an alignment this day to where you might be able to step more towards sharing that understanding with the world, because it, I believe, serves to have the knowers out there, the sages, the elders, those in adulthood and wisdom, to share their understandings with those of us that are seeking that knowledge. And I think that we are all influencers, and there are things you've come to understand that could be a beautiful influence if you would share your understandings. In that same vein, I wanted to speak about 10,000 hours in another concept, which is what you're doing, what you've spent 10,000 hours attention doing that doesn't serve. Maybe you've spent 10,000 hours attacking your body. How's that going for you? I recommend either loving your body as is or doing what is needed to make the change. But just beating yourself up your whole life, what's that doing for you? So maybe you have 10,000 hours in complaining. The good Lord knows I've definitely met those people. And literally everything you say to them, they turn into a negative. And they're like, well, you can even say like, oh my God, I got a new job. Oh, that reminds me when I tried to get a new job and I didn't get it. It's like, well, thanks. I don't. Thank you for always being negative, Debbie Downer. No one's happy that you're talking right now. So it's like some of us are really adept at complaining. We're adept at looking for the worst, discussing the worst. And all the while, back of any complainer, give me any complainer, bring them to me. And I could tell you right away 1,000 things that person could be grateful for. I noticed you have feet. How convenient. I noticed you have toes that balance you. That's nice. Are you able to smell? You can taste. That's fun. You're alive. What a gift. You know what I mean? Wow. Looks like you're not starving to death. What a gift. You know what I mean? Looks like you don't have COVID because you came over here and I was able to start to tell you all your gifts. So behind every complainer is plenty to be grateful for. That's all about perspective. So one of the ways we can evolve is to also turn more of our attention. Perhaps you have 10,000 hours and would make a great death doula, but you have 600 hours in playing the guitar. And when you play the guitar, you lose time. When I paint, I lose time. Another way to look for something that you might want to share with the world as a talent is something that when you do it, you lose time. I don't have 10,000 hours in painting, but when I do it, I lose time and I love it. And so that's something that, I might want to move. I painted the seahorse. That's something that I was able to produce with my hands from my mind by giving it some time. Perhaps if I gave it more time, some of these ideas that I got up here that I want to get on canvas, I could get out there and inspire someone by it being on their wall. So we can also give more attention to the areas where we don't quite have 10,000. I've got 10,000 hours in this. These are the things I'd like to get 10,000 hours in. Could be another list you could make. But then you can also look at where you're giving 10,000 hours of attention. Are you giving 10,000 hours of attention waiting in line at Starbucks? Maybe get a French press. Maybe stop wasting all those cups and be green. And reduce your usage of Starbucks cups by making coffee at home. And enjoying your home, making your home be a place where you want to have a cup of coffee. So we can look at where we're spending 10,000 hours of attention that maybe doesn't serve. I definitely, because I love data, because I love information, I have definitely been a seeker and a searcher for knowing and information. I'd love to know more about Sufi meditation. So I went to a Sufi meditation group. I'd love to know more about whatever it is. And so as I immerse myself in these different studies, what I can find is that I might get stuck in what I call mental masturbation, where I'm just, stuck in the value of thought and bouncing thoughts off. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. Conversation is a beautiful thing. I think we could use more open conversation in the modern age because a lot of it is closed and looking for agreement, which diversity doesn't always agree, and the world is diverse. However, that's great. But if I'm just constantly like data, right, wrong, data, information, this is the right fact. I read an article. If I'm constantly correcting and data processing and being right and valid around data, then I may be stuck in a little bit of too much, more than 10,000 hours in cognitive processing. And I may be praising intellect, IQ above EQ. Now, if you've read the book Emotional Intelligence, highly recommend it, phenomenal book. That book talks about how EQ is potentially more valuable than IQ because many geniuses have probably had brilliant information in a desk drawer go to a landfill because they didn't have the EQ or the relational capacity or emotional quotient or emotional intelligence to create relationship to sell their ideas or to offer their ideas to humanity. So I'm not going to get into which is more effective. They're both helpful. But some people have what I'd call emotional masturbation. They're so emotionally intelligent and empathetic, sensitive, that they're overly sensitive in the world and they're becoming depressed and having suicidal ideation because they have such sensitivity and the entire world is not sensitive. Not all two-leggeds have developed emotional quotient. And if you are waiting for the world to match your emotional quotient, you may find that is a difficult life to find it being worth living because we all evolve at different rates on every topic in the universe. Can we allow that a little bit more? So where can you come into balance? Where have you given 10,000? Maybe you need to practice more cold, aloof, logical consideration. You can always subscribe to Rare Burn Medicine on YouTube, share, like, comment, all of that there. If you go to rareburnmedicine.com in the coming year, I'm going to have an apprenticeship program and online classes. Blessed be.